You guys mentioned can't get rights. Man, Rashee Rice, he must.
That's a can't get right. That's like you do something like that and you do it repeatedly, like you do things that get you in trouble, or you can't get the plays, or you're can't get right.
He's now a suspect in an alleged assault at a nightclub in Dallas, and look, we don't know whether or not how involved he was, but we know he's at least a suspect. But this is on the heels of the bumper cars that he played on a highway, and he fled the scene, and now there's all sorts of criminal activity surrounding that and charges surrounding that, and then the NFL hasn't even announced whether or not they're going to suspend him. Who knows what the Chiefs are planning on doing? But if you're somebody near Rashee Rice and you've got his ear, do you not pull him aside after the first incident and say, hey dude, they'll replace you? Like Tyreek Hill got replaced, and they're fine. Like you don't have his resume. Stay out of trouble, steer clear from this crap, and then he goes out to a nightclub and he's involved in this. I don't get it. It's weird.
It never makes any sense when we're on this side of it. Now, when you're living that life, and you're I don't know how to describe it to people who haven't been a part of it. I mean, look, I never won a Super Bowl. So I can only imagine how it feels to get into the league early on in your career, win a Super Bowl, and feel like everything's great. I mean, the ultimate goal of you as a player is to go and try to play professionally and then go win a Super Bowl. And he's able to already accomplish that. So there's got to be this element of feeling like he's invincible. And that's oftentimes, especially after midnight, coaches always tell you nothing good happens after midnight. Usually bad things then happen or trouble finds you. And that's the tough part, is you've got to sacrifice. Like, a lot of guys, aren't willing to do this. Like, there's so many talented, so many good players out there that never make it, or if they do, they don't become the players that they could be because they're not willing to make the sacrifice of living a really bored life. Like, they probably have to live a boring life in order to stay out of trouble, focus on your nutrition, focus on your training, focus on all the things that matter to give yourself a chance of maximizing the window of time you have to play in the NFL. It's a hard lesson to teach, VAR, but I feel like that's oftentimes, what it ultimately boils down to. And I wish these guys could see the fact that, like, a team like Kansas City, not only did they already move on from Tyreek Hill and they were fine, they brought in Hollywood Brown, a veteran. They drafted a first-round pick at Xavier Worthy. You immediately have competition right there on your roster this offseason they brought in to compete with you.
And keep in mind, it's like 0.0028 or something like that percentage of people that make it into the NFL from college, I believe it is. It's a crazy percentage. And you say Kansas City, we say Kansas City, the worst team in the league, the worst record, the worst performing team in the league will replace you. Will replace you if you're messing up. This is one of those age-old deals where you say at some point you gotta take a step back and say, it's not about somebody pulling the person aside and telling them that you don't need to do wrong. By this point in your career, by this time in your life, by the time you're a rookie in the National Football League, there have been plenty of moments where you needed to understand that your conduct and how you handle things has to be at a certain level for you to be able to live a productive life first. Like, forget about the playing in the National Football League. You have to do certain things a certain way to live a productive life. Like, that should not be something foreign to somebody that's at the professional level, because you know that those shortcomings and those mishaps could be the first and last of your career. And that the opportunity to make the type of money that you make playing a kid's game, it's it's mind-boggling to me. Now, I will say, I don't know like all the details of what happened, and I'm not going to like try to speculate on it. But what I will say is that, listen, when I played, of course I went out. Hell, I still go out. I go hang out. And when you go out, you make sure that you understand what the reason for you going out, what it is, what it's for. Now, there may be times where you go into a situation and it's hard to avoid something that happens. Like I've been out and I could honestly say one time I went out and one of my family members was talking to a girl. The girl liked him. But she was there with some other dudes with clout. So them dudes, they're people, right? They're people that ran up on my family, and she chose him. Like, chalk it up to the game. But I get it, right? You gonna roll on my family, and it's like now, I'm in a situation where it's like, man, I'm in the league. We're in the VIP. They're in the VIP. They rolling up on my family. Right. They rolling up on my family. What do you do? What do you do in that situation?
See if she's got a friend.
Yeah, okay, Jonas. You probably be under the table or something like that. Like, oh my God,
you guys need help with this?
Oh, they're fighting. Like, what? But I can understand that. So if there was some type of circumstance that played out where it was a non-avoidable thing, and then he didn't put his hands on somebody, and now they're claiming he didn't assaulted them, all I can say is hopefully it works out for him, and he realizes now that you have to control your environment.
Look at Tank Dell. Tank Dell just got shot. He had nothing to do with it. Like, they were at some place and gunshots rang out and he got clipped. Like, it had nothing to do with it. He was just there. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And
yeah, I mean, my advice would be like, what do? You leave. Like, just back away, de-escalate the situation. Because
in the situation I'm talking about,
it's just all of it. Like,
I was about to say, because there was no backing out of this one.
But
believe you me, there was no backing out.
There comes a time where you can make a decision to leave before it gets to a certain point. Right, and oftentimes it's hard to see that in the moment, but when you think back on it, you can say like, that was probably my opportunity to get out of the situation. But like athletes, professional athletes in particular, but even like younger ones, college, high school kids, like, you have so much to lose. It's just not worth it, and it's so hard in some of those moments to think that it literally only takes seconds for you to make a terrible decision that'll impact the rest of your life and the rest of what opportunities you could have had. And so I hate seeing that from young people. I always hate reading about it, and we have to talk about it this time of year too, because unfortunately the truth is, if this is during the season, you don't hear about it quite as much because you have games and other things to keep track of. But because it's an NFL player and it's the off season, even though we got rookie minicamps coming up, we tend to focus more on this sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hell, didn't Mike Florio used to have like a tracker when guys getting arrested or something in the offseason or for the NFL?
I think Ben Maller
took that down now. Yeah.
Ben Maller does the hey, Eddie, what does Ben do where he, like, you guys draw teams that'll have the most arrests during the offseason? What was that called?
Well, for the picks, he had the NFL Pick'em.
Yeah.
So this was the NFL Book'em.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it was which teams would have players who would get arrested in the offseason or have a brush with the law. So, and there was who was usually like the number one pick, like the team that would be the go-to. Was it the Raiders or was it
Raiders? It depended, like how long they've been doing it. Like back in the day, like maybe the Bengals. When Pac-Man was around, it could be a high draft pick. That team could be a high draft pick.
Yeah. So welcome to the offseason, everybody.